Hi everyone, hope you all are doing well. Welcome to our next lesson. And in this lesson, we're just going to do a couple of things. We're going to check if our tables are migrated. We're going to create a home controller with a view and a round. I'll show you all these kind of things. Then we're going to create a base layout component. Okay, now let me show you. Now in your layouts, you'll have your app and your guest layout. These are the layouts that you get with your Laravel installation if you use the Jetstream, okay? But now the thing under view, app, view, now you will see components, you will see your app layout and your guest layout. We're going to create for ourselves our own base layout, just so that you guys know how to make one, how to create one, and how to use them in your own views, okay? So that's what we're going to do. Then we're going to create partial components, the head, footer, and nav, and alerts. So let's say if you created a post, you get a notification to say the post successfully created or something went wrong. Okay. Then in your head of our base section, so in our partials right there, we're just going to add our social sharing meta tag for Facebook. We can add one for Twitter, but in this one, let's just use the Facebook one. Sometimes you want your viewers to actually share your blog post and stuff like that, either to Facebook, to Twitter, or things like that. So you can do that as well. So we're going to do that in this tutorial as well. Right, so let's see if our tables are migrated, and let's get started. Right, the first thing we're going to do, let's start up our server. Right, let's start up our server. Right, so we're going to start our Apache server in our SQL. As you can see, they started up. I'm just going to minimize this and open Firefox. All right, as we are here, let's go to your localhost PHP myadmin. Okay, so all you do is you type in localhost PHP myadmin if you start up the server and if you followed the tutorial and things like that. So we're just going to click on the blog page right here. So let's just make it a little bit bigger. Now, as you can see, everything migrated. We got our categories. We got our post tag, sessions, subscribers. These are the default ones that you get with Laravel, Jetstream, and password reset, personal access tokens, and the file jobs, all these kind of things, okay? Then it's our subscribers, our tags, and users. All right, so everything is good. So all migrated, everything successful, great stuff. So let's go to our blog.test. Okay, let's see. Nope, not that. Blog.test. Right, let's see if it works. Right, so we opened our landing page. So basically, we're going to change this page to use our base layout and our home controller and things like that. Okay, so let's get started. Let's create our first controller. Let's go back to VS Code. Right, so in VS Code, what we're going to do is we're going to control tilde to open up our terminal. Right, now in order to create a controller, we use the artisan command. So basically, we're doing like PHP artisan make, but let me just show you. You can type in help make like we did the other time with the migration, with the model. So help make the controller. Now basically you will have a couple of functions available to you. You can use the short notation for -m. That's actually if you want to create a resource controller with your attached model. Now for us, we don't need to use that, but when we're going to use this function -m to create our models. Basically what it does is it will create a model binding resource controller for us, but I will show you all of that. So no need to stress and things like that. Okay, so let me clear this. All right, so we're going to do PHP artisan, if I can spell, let's make a controller. Now we're going to make home controller, because even if your controller only have one, let's say it return a view, but in our case it will return a view with some extra data. So it's all completely fine if you only return one thing in your controller. Okay, let me just use the home controller. So if you press enter, it will create your controller. Right. Another thing that you can do, a shortcut, you press Control P in your VS Code and you can just go like this. You type in home controller and you just press enter. Okay, so it opens our home controller up, but I will show you how to get to your controller. So let me close that for you. So you go to app, HTTP, controllers, and you will see we got our home controller right here. All right, nice and neat. All right, so basically created your PHP opening tag, and you don't need to add a closing tag for PHP. And we got our namespace and we got our home controller that extends our main controller. But I want to explain this. I will do that in a complete Laravel course on its own. But for now, all right, so the first thing that we're going to do a public, let's do it like a public function. And I'm just going to call it index. All right. Now the index is just going to return a view. All right. So the view will be home.index. Right. We haven't created a view yet. All right. So for now, we just want to return the home.index. All right. Now I like to use the, let me show you. I like to use, so everything have its own folder. So if we go to resources, views, we create a new folder and we're just going to call it home. All right. And inside the home, we're just going to create a new file called index.blade. This is Laravel's text or templating engine. Blade, let me just call it this, blade.php. All right. So this is Laravel's templating engine. All right, so let's go in here. All right, so basically now, as you can see, because we installed that extension from go to view, we can just actually now press on it and we can actually get to our view right there. All right, so we created that and we got our controller, we got our view, but we're going to use our base layout for our views. But before I do that, we need to obviously get to the routes first. We need to create the route. But let me show you something. Now, let's say you want to restrict access to this view. Now, you can do it in your controller or you can do it in the view. But let me show you how to do it in the controller. Now, in the controller, it's going to be public function construct. All right. So basically, in the construct method right here, we can actually say return. You can say return. Wow, my spelling. This dot middleware. Right. So basically, we want to say what security guards we want to put in here to protect this controller. Now, the one that you have is we got the auth. All right. Now, auth meaning anybody that is authenticated can actually view anything inside this controller. Now, if we want to say only, this means we can create an array inside of here to say only the index view needs to be auth, or we can do accept index. So basically what we can do is we can say, all right, this security guard must check everything inside this controller except the index. The index doesn't need the security guard. Anybody can basically view it. Or if you put only in here, it will say, all right, the only one that needs the security guard will only be the index. Okay, so that is what we can do right here. All right, so with this middleware auth that we're referencing here is under our, let me show you where it is. If we go to app, HTTP, like I showed you last time, middleware. All right, and underneath you will see your kernel right there. Let me just, you will see your auth right here. Okay, so you will see it goes to the HTTP middleware. It gives you the authenticate class. Okay, but another way in order to add it, instead of that, we can actually do this. Authenticate. Then we can actually do it like this. Authenticate class. All right, you can even call it in like this. All right, and you can do an array as well. Let's say you have multiple, and the other one, let's say we created another one called is admin class. So basically what this does is you can actually call it in like this, but when you do this, you actually need to bring in, obviously, you need to import the class actually on top. Okay, just like this. Okay, use HTTP middleware, but we don't have an isAdmin class. But I just wanted to show you that you can actually do this. But if you don't want to do this, you can actually register it in the kernel under your middleware, where you can actually reference the full path to that class in here, and you can actually call it whatever you want. All right, just like that. All right, and another one is, let's say you have verifications. Let's say you enable the verifications. We can actually do like this, verified class like this. No, not that one. I think it's is verified. Let me just check under the kernel. Right, you can see it like this, verified. Sure, email is verified. Okay, and sure, email is verified like this, or you can just put like this, verified. All right, and that what that will do is anybody that's wanting to come to your public.index, only if the emails are verified, they will only them are allowed to see this. If the email is not verified, they cannot see this. All right, right. Let's move on. So that is enough on this. I will show you as we progress more in-depth ones as we build out our blog. Right, so now we got our home.index. All right, so we got that, but now we got nowhere to link this home route to an actual route. So let me show you. Under your routes folder, you go here under routes, under web. We're basically returning the slash like here, and just we're returning a view. All right, so we're going to delete this. All right, and we're just going to say our home route. Okay, and then what we do is route. We're just going to have a get route. We're going to do the same thing. Then we're going to have open and closing square brackets. Then we're going to do our home controller. All right. Now this for me is already imported right there. When I type, as you can see, if I go like this, my IDE automatically imports it for me as I type. Okay. So just remember to, what you can do is you can actually put the full path as it is right there. You can actually bring it in here like this. Then you don't have to import it, but I don't like doing that because it just becomes messy. Right. Like this. You call it as a class, and then inside that we just want to call the index method. Right. And then I'm just going to give this a route and name of home. All right. So basically what I've done now is I just said the home, the slash page needs to go to the home controller. And inside the home controller, it needs to go to the index, and I give it a name of home. So you see from the inside here, I can actually click on the index and it will actually get me to the home controller view right there. Right. Very neat and handy. All right. Let me just bring this down. And like I showed you, like the security guards that we have right in here, what we can do is inside our method right here, we can actually create a route group that actually puts the auth middleware over the whole group right here, which is actually a better practice. But I will show you that when we get to our creating posts and things like that. Okay, so what we have done now is we have done that. We created our home controller with a view, and we created our route. Okay, so this is our route that we created. So let's see if it works. Okay, let me just type in something in here. This is the home controller. Okay, just to let us know to see if we get to the right place. Okay, so let's save this. In our web, let's go to our browser. Now, as you can see, the slash brings us this, but I haven't refreshed the page. So let's see if I refresh the page, what happens. You can see it returns this is the home controller, because what happens now is, let me just make it a little bit bigger. What happens now is the browser come here, it looks for the slash, and then say, okay, we need to go here, and then it looks at the home controller. And the home controller says, oh, okay, you need to want to go to the index. Okay, in the index, it will say, okay, in the index method, because basically what this does is it says what class it is and what method inside the class it is. Okay, so the method inside this class is the index, all right, and inside the index, it just returns the view of home.index. All right, so that brings us to our next part of our lesson, where we're actually going to create our own base layout view instead of the one that we get, because we can use it, but I want to create one from scratch so that you guys can know how to create your own. So if you're not kind of happy, you want to create your own custom layout so that you can do that. So let's create our own base layout component. So how do we do that? Okay, let me just minimize this. Now, basically, first thing you do, you obviously bring up your terminal, and you're going to do PHP artisan make component. All right, now I'm going to call mine base layout. Okay, you can call it whatever you want. If you want to call it main layout, base layout, for simplicity's sake, call yours base layout. But if you can call it main layout like this, but for me, I'm just going to call mine base layout. Okay, like this. Then you press enter. All right, so basically what you've done now, it created our base layout in our component. So let me show you. Let me make this a little bit bigger. So inside your app view, you will see now we got another one called base layout right there. Okay, but now the thing is, it will register a view under our components.base layout, but we don't want that view. We actually want to return a view inside our layouts.base. So create a new file under your layout, call it base, or if you did it main.layout, call it main.blade.php. All right, easy peasy. All right, now inside your components, now inside the view components in your app, what you do now is you reference that. Okay, so inside that, we're going to reference the layouts.base. Okay, like this. As you can see, because we have the go to view extension, it underlines it to say that we can go there. Let me click on it. As you can see, it referenced that. So it will create a view. When we create, it will create a components.base.layout. This one we can actually delete now. Let me delete that. Okay, so it's deleted. Nice. All right, so now we got our base layout right there. All right, so that's how easy you can create one. Okay, just with a PHP artisan make component. All right, let me use the dashboard. Let's create a simple, the welcome one. Let's just make it, copy everything inside your welcome. Just check which one. No. Let me see the app. You know what? Copy everything inside your guest. Okay, like this. Then you go to your base.blade.php and you paste it in there. Right, let me just make this. So basically what I've done now is everything inside our guest file right there, I moved to our base right here. Okay, so this we can remove. but it's actually quite better just to leave it like that, because all it does, it just brings out the language, this part right here under the local English. Okay, for us, we're just going to leave it just like that. Okay, so what did we say? We created our base layout. All right, so it's here. Okay, now inside our base layout, just make this a little bit smaller. All right, we know basically your app name, basically the title will be app name, or it will be the default Laravel. Now in our case, we just want to say if the app name is there, then use block. If it's not there, use block. But in our case, in the .env file, you will see our app name right there is block. So it brings out this right here. Okay, so no stress there. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're gonna, sorry about that, I think I'm just gonna remove this and actually yield the title. Okay, so every page will have its own unique title. That's just for this, so that I can show you guys how that works. Right, so we got our head section right there, and inside our head we got our, just create a footer. Right, and I'm just going to say copyright. Let's do it proper. Let's do a div. Okay, inside the div, I'm just going to create an h2 with okay, so we got copyright, and just copy like this. Right, so we got more or less our style right there. Let me just remove my title to the bottom. I like to keep it here. Right, instead of the mix, I will use the asset, because in some cases this might just give you an error. It depends where you install your application. So I remove that, and we're just going to add our Livewire. Okay, just going to do. Okay, so basically what we're going to do, we're going to add our Livewire styles. Okay, because we're going to use Livewire as well. So we just want to include it in our head section, and in our, just underneath the body, we're just going to add our Livewire. Just open and close it. Livewire, and we just want to add our scripts. Okay, so this includes our Livewire styles, and this one includes our Livewire scripts. So that's that. And actually the title, if it's not available, I just want to include it like our block. So if the title is available, it will be there. If it's not, just use the block. Right, so let's see where we are now. All right, so we created a base. We added now our basic layout for our base. We got it right there, so all good. Now, since it's a component, the slot part right here is where basically everything in that view will come in this slot right here. Okay, all right, so what we're going to do now is, like before, if you didn't have the blade component like we have now, like our base is actually a blade component, if we didn't have that, normally what we would have done is we would have yield like this, and we would have said main, or we could have said content. Now then inside your view, let's just create like, then you would have had extends. All right, and then we could have said extends like app.layout or something like that, and you would have actually said section, add section, and you would have said main right here. But we're not going to do that because we're going to use the blade component syntax, but I will show you guys in a sec. Right, so we're not going to do this. Everything inside your blade component for us in our layout will be in the slot section. Okay, so but what I want to do is I want to split this up and create the partials for our head, footer, nav, and obviously our alerts. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to create a new component. So PHP artisan make a component, component, and we're going to create, let me just do it. Now, inside the component, I'm just going to call it partials. But you know what? Let's not do it like this, because this will actually kind of create a controller for us in here. Okay, so and I don't want that to happen, because I just wanted to return like a view. So in order how you can do that is actually in our components, I'm going to create a new folder called partials, like this. And then, as you can see right there, then we're going to just create a new file and we're going to call it head.blade.php. Now, someone might already said that's not a convention, because the convention for partials is you put an underscore like that. But I'm not going to do that. I will show you the reason why. Okay, the new file is nav.blade.php. And we create a new file called, we got our head, we got our footer.blade.php. Okay, so what else do we have? I'm going to create a new folder as well, and I'm just going to call it UI. Inside that folder, I'm just going to create a new file called alerts.blade.php. Okay, so basically we got our partials. So we created two folders in our components. We've got our partials for footer, head, and nav. And inside our components, we create a UI for alerts. So that's all good stuff. Right, so let's close this off. Now what we're going to do now is, if in our head section, we're just going to copy everything like this. Just copy it all. And you're basically going to have your empty opening and closing head tags. Or what you can do is you can actually copy the whole head section like this. Okay, so you can do that, or you can just copy the inner part of your head, which I like to do because then I know where everything is. So let me just do it like, it's just preference. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to link to that head. So basically how we do that is with our blade syntax, ext, and then we're just going to call it partials. And inside the partials, I just want the head. Okay, like this, and we can just close it off. Now the reason, as you can see, I got this blade extension, so where I can actually click to the blade view like this, which makes it easy. Now the problem is, let me show you. Now if I rename it like head, like this, just you'll see if I try to link to it, you cannot link to it like this. And for me, it's kind of a pain because I like to quickly, easily navigate to my views. So let me just remove it. So the partials, the right convention is to actually use an underscore, but you don't have to. All right, so let me just do it like this. Inside our base view, as you can see now, I can just click and I get to it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do that with the footer as well. So just go here and I copy everything inside the footer, and I'm actually going to use the X notation for the footer, partials dot footer. Okay, so now you can see I can link to it quite easy. So click on it and you get there, or like I said before, we can actually copy the whole thing and bring it here. So let's do it like that. Let me use it on this one so that you guys can see it all works well. So x dot partials dot footer. All right. So basically what I've done now is we got our head section right there. Everything inside here is basically linking to there, just cleaning up our view a bit, and our footer is right here. Okay. So let's see how it looks so far. As you can see, lovely. Nice little blank page for us. So everything looks good. I'm just joking. All right. So the only reason why we don't see the anything on that content is because we haven't linked our base with that home.index file. So let's do that quickly. So to VS Code. All right. So inside our VS Code, we got our base. Just remember in our home controller. So if we click on the home controller, your index page. So let's go to that. Now what we do now is we can just open and close it with our blade syntax. So basically we do like x.base.layout. Now I'm just using Emmet to do it. Now basically you just type in x opening tag and a closing tag. Now remember the slot inside. Let me just go here. You see this slot part right here is everything that's going in between these two tags, opening and closing tags. So let me create an H1 and say this is home dot index. Okay, so let's see if it still works. Let's go to our browser and refresh it. It's supposed to work. Give us an error. Partials.net does not exist. Let me just check what's wrong. I just forgot an S. Let me show you. So right here, I put it style. It's supposed to be styles. Okay, so in your head section. Right, so now it works. So like I said before, don't be afraid of errors. Okay, let me just cancel that. So this is our home.index, and this is obviously our footer. Very nice website. We're all done. Thank you, guys. I'm just joking. We need to do a little bit more. Obviously, make it pretty and stuff like that. But now we obviously linked our home.index. So as you can see, if we go back to our home controller and we press there, you will see it actually linked to our base page. So it's actually using our base layout instead of the layouts that we received in the installation, like our views layout. So it's actually using our base layout. Okay, so let me close the guest. The footer is fine. We're not going to do anything there. Now what we're going to still add is, so let me just close this off. Right, so we got our head, we got our that. We're still going to add our nav. So let's do that. Now inside our base layout, what we're going to do just above our slot is we're just going to link to x partials dot nav. Okay, like this. All right, there's obviously nothing in that, but we could still gonna add that in a later episode. All right, so we link that, and we're gonna obviously add our alerts just underneath this. So x UI dot alerts. All right, so we got our alerts in there. We got our nav. So what else must we do? We need to add our social meta tags in our head section. All right, let me quickly show you how to do that. I'm just going to copy and paste it in, and I will explain it. All right, the only thing that you need is for us, we're going to use the URL, image, and the title. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to heal the OG title. Now, basically, the URL will just be the current URL. I will show you there. And then the convict slash, obviously, the image, where the image is. Okay, convict.app.url / yield the image. So basically, these are the three Facebook metas. In order, if you share the page, it will actually create an image and a URL and a title where the person can actually click on your Facebook page and actually be linked back to your blog. Right? So basically we know what the styles are for, and this is obviously linking just the font. So we're just going to use the standard font. Obviously you guys know how to add your custom fonts already. So that is obviously our script tags, all Gucci stuff, and that's it for this lesson. All right, so we created our own route, we added that, we add our header and footer. All right, so basically what we're going to do in the next lesson is we're going to start creating posts. Yeah. So we're going to have create our post controller. We're just going to focus on the post controller on the next lesson, where we're going to have the index, create, store, and all the methods attached to the post one. And then we're going to create a tag one and categories and all their little juicy stuff with them. But the thing is, in order to create the post controller, we need to have the categories and the tag controllers done before it. So I think we might need to do the categories controller first, and then the tag, and then the post, because the post requires those two. Okay, because you cannot, otherwise you cannot assign a category to the post or create tag to the post. Okay, so let's create those two first. So the next one, we're going to do the categories controller. My apologies, and I will show you how to do that, all its custom methods attached to it and things like that. So we build up to that with its views. Right. So thank you guys for watching. Like the video if you like it. If you didn't like it, please give it a thumbs down. Negative or positive feedback is really appreciated. And I will see if I can get these videos out to you guys as soon as possible. So I'll kind of do them all this week. But obviously there's some other in real life stuff that also happens. So let me see if I can get that done for you guys. All right. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.